we can start recording, and it is 5 p.m. So we just wait for people to join in. So we'll give a couple of minutes and then we start talking. So till the time, I'll let the looping deck run, and just if all of us can say hi and see how you guys are doing so far. How is COVID treating you? Let's go with Andrew. Andrew, you tell me what's happening on your side.
Oh, geez. Well, I haven't been outside probably since the end of March, coming up on a month. But I mean, spirits are still high. Team's doing great. Our transition to a remote work was very, very seamless. We had to sort of put a lot of our projects on the back burner and kind of redirect a couple of things. So still staying sane, I would say. Hopefully we can all get back out into our regular routines here soon enough.
Yeah, can't wait to do that. I'm just like,
Andrew, do you say you haven't been out in a month? You mean you haven't stepped outside even for a walk or groceries?
No, I haven't.
like what, you're just drinking water and like breathing air?
I've got enough beer. I've got enough beer to hold me through, which is good. I made sure of that. That was my top priority. I did some preps and everything right beforehand, and I've been getting things delivered pretty frequently. So, because since I'm down in Lower Manhattan, I guess it's pretty congested, and I look outside, there's not really much, but just to kind of avoid any crazy risks, I've just resorted to staying inside.
Good thinking. I mean, that's the right thing to do, and yeah, you're contributing in a way by not stepping out. So probably you might be just ordering. Okay, nice.
Yeah, but I did manage to run a half marathon in my apartment on Saturday in a 24-foot area. It took just under 7 hours, but I checked off my half marathon for the month.
Ah. That's an achievement indeed.
Yeah, well, it was a good time. Some folks showed up. It was good. So
nice. Oh, nice. Cool. Do we have anyone else on the call? Let me just switch over my view. Who else we got? Selena!
She got the techno background.
Oh my God. I thought it was like you might have accidentally clicked the link and you had just got in there. Wow, that's really cool. Very nice of you. For all of you folks whom you don't know, Selena is the community lead or the head of the all this Atlassian community for United States. So thanks for joining us. She probably made 1 or 2 events, so she generally comes to the grand event, the one what we had at NASDAQ. After that, she didn't come at all. Like she was waiting that only if we host in Madison Square Garden or somewhere else that she's going to come to us. So since she's here. Welcome her. I think you're on mute, Selena, probably. Oh, she disappeared. She felt too shy. Mr. John Patton.
I don't like the virtual background. That's better.
Nah,
the room.
You see? Can you see the New York
City
all
the
my
opulence that I live in? Oh, so fancy.
Nice.
There's a dog on a sled. Their skis. That's pretty crazy.
I got the old Atlassian pillow back here. You know.
Oh, nice. That's nice, Andy. I think we'll give 1 more minute and probably we'll get started.
Not to make anyone jealous, but I thought I'd just point out I'm outside.
Ooh. Oh, look at Martin.
We're allowed to go for a daily walk, so I'm taking my kids out roller skating. So we are walking through the park. Very nice.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Okay, I'm going to stop showing off now.
I don't see your camera. I'm not sure. Are you sharing your camera or I'm missing it? Are you guys?
You had missed it. I think it was on.
Yeah,
Or
it is
it's-
on. I see.
Okay, maybe I think maybe because I'm
if I
sharing my
can- if I-
screen, it is messing with me. All right, maybe I'll get a glimpse of New York view sometime in real.
If you have the split view, you just drag the bar over to the left. Gives you a much better view if you're trying to show your presentation at the same time.
I have the split view, but still, yeah, I think I have to scroll maybe. All right, I guess we have enough folks and we are 5:05. So let's get started before it gets too late because I know people would have other engagements to jump on. So hi everyone, welcome to our first New York virtual event. This is something that probably we have done it for the first time. The positive side of this event was for us, we didn't have to go looking for an event space, which was that was the biggest benefit for us. And I know the downside is we don't have beer to drink, we don't have chicken to eat, we don't have food to eat, which means there are a few downsides. So welcome all to this wonderful evening for our first virtual event. So we have a bunch of lines of talk for tonight. Let me just scroll up. Where did I move? Okay. Just give me a second. I'm new to Zoom, so please bear with me. All right, let me just reshare my screen. Okay. So getting started. So we're just opening up. So we'll do a quick announcement on introduction. So like I would like to see, are there any new first time joiners for the New York community? Anyone? Maybe if you can just unmute and just say hi, just to see if there are any first timers. Okay.
Hi, this is Lori Ciceri. I'm new.
Nice. Hi, Lori. Nice to meet you or online. Probably, hopefully soon, things will settle down and we can go back to a regular event location.
I actually
so
like
probably,
this because I'm in upstate New York and you guys are the
Ah.
closest group and I haven't been able to be there in person. So I'm really excited that you're online.
Cool. So probably maybe going forward, we could do a mix of both. So we would do an in-person event, and now that we are getting trained for all this virtual, we would also do the virtual. So for folks like you, you can
That'd be
still be able to
wonderful.
do. Sure, definitely. We would look
Thank
forward
you.
to that. Thanks. Thanks for saying hi to us. And then to get started, the next one we have is the summary from our co-leaders, Dileep and Kapil. So they're going to do us the Herculean job of going through all the deck or all the presentations that happened during the recent Atlassian Summit, the virtual event that happened. So they are going to give us a quick 20 minutes recap on what exactly happened in those so many hours of events. So thanks to them. And after them, we have a talk from Boris, which is signal versus noise. I'm sure all of you who use Jira and other tools, how you handle your notifications. So Boris, who is part of the Atlas Authority, is going to give us a talk on that. And then we have the regular Q&A part of it, for session. And then eventually for the end of the evening, we have the closing notes and then the raffle. Like as out, we generally give out raffles. So that's been a tradition for New York ACE. So we are going to do that as well. And then at 6, we'll hang around for some more time if people are interested to chat. And then after that, we'll virtually end the session. All right, so that's with the agenda. Just to get quick started, code of conduct. I request all of you to stay on mute all the time unless you have a question to ask or say something. So if not, please stay on mute. And if you have a noisy background, like you're sitting somewhere in the park or something is like you have a dog, a lot of stuff moving around in the background, you can mute your, like you can take away your video from probably. Just avoid distractions to other members. If not, it's nice to see you around in person, like at least virtually. And then if you have any question, like after each of these talks, you can hit on the, what do you call, raise a hand on your chat. And then I would probably prioritize you and give you an option to speak. And if at all we cannot handle all your questions, then we would take you at the last. So depending on the time window. All right. So that's with the code of conduct for the evening. We just give a shout out to all our sponsors, which is Atlassian for a wonderful event, like as always. And then we have AdTech, we have Column and C Prime who are sponsoring for us tonight. And then we have a couple of prizes as well, as always. And then, yeah, I'll talk about the rest of the stuff later on. So to get started, we invite Dileep and Kapil for the remote summit. So guys, can you please get started? Thank you.
Just one note, Madhu, just folks, just to be aware that there's a chat in the Zoom function as well. So make sure you're aware of that. And so if you have any questions, etc., please feel free to do that, as well as send out shout outs to anyone you know as well. Thanks, Madhu.
Thanks, Madhu. I think in order for me to, yeah, I think I already switched it. So that's great. Let me get started. I hope you guys are able to see my screen. Yeah, let me know if you're able to see my screen, Madhu.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, you can get started.
Okay, cool. So one thing before we actually start, I'll just wanna mention is like, yeah, we tried our best to keep it cut short and like give a glimpse of like everything which has happened at Summit and just include the features, but it's like, it's not limited and there's much more than this. Just due to time limitation, we just covered a few. So as you know, I'm Kapil, one of the co-lead, and Dileep and I are gonna take you through this slide. What we have in the agenda is we're gonna explain about the summit theme, what was this time, excuse me, keynote session and some announcement from Atlassian, and then Dileep will walk you through the breakout sessions, some interesting sessions. So the main thing with the theme this time is like there was like all about unifying work and accelerating business transformation, which leads like mainly to unification of all cloud. And this, by this now you might get some idea, is like we gonna talk a lot about cloud, and there was actually happened a lot of things about cloud. So there was one funny thing is like, even during this presentation, somebody heard that and this is what they put in live in chat. It's more about like cloud. Is it Atlassian Cloud Summit? Because everything is about cloud. So is it? So that's really funny because there's gonna be a lot about cloud in this summit as well. What all had happened in this remote summit is like there were 2 main keynote sessions. There were 12 live chat with Atlassians, 22 breakout sessions, and 11 product demo sessions. Everything is online, so anytime anybody can go and watch them, because we are doing in limitation, but there's full videos. This is just the word cloud, where you can see all these words were like mostly being used and did during all the summit time. Now I'll just focus on the keynote sessions and mainly some Atlassian announcements. Again, as I mentioned, there's a lot available online. This is like very limited, and due to limited time, we are covering very less. So one big thing which has been announced is free. Everybody like free. There's a lot of, I mean, free pretty much in all the products. That's what Atlassian is giving away now. One thing left out is Service Desk. So there's new integration with Service Desk, which will keep the whole CI/CD process smooth. Roadmap is something which is been like always missing from the classic. So they announced now this is available with the classic projects and not just the next gen. And they are also coming a lot with the advanced roadmap, but that is available with the software premium. Templates, so far just Confluence we always think about when it comes to templates, but Atlassian recently give new ways for this, and one of the things that it is for the Jira Service Desk. So a lot of different teams like HR, finance, these teams can have a preset template and they can use there over there. Similarly with Confluence as well, they enhanced they launched a template gallery with a lot of templates which can be easily used. Not just admins have to do it, any users can do it as well. Then there is the premium. So far it was with just software and Confluence, but now it's been included with the Service Desk as well. So you will get some enhanced feature if you go with the cloud premium. There's some more premium feature. There's like IP whitelisting. That's what you can do to grant any site access. There is project archiving. That is something can be done. Everybody looking, like even myself is always looking for this feature, is gonna be there soon. automation for Jira that's been enhanced and it's being improved to get a lot of different tools automation with that. This is something new. It's been just launched this time. That's the Cloud Enterprise. So I would say it's like another tier or another level above the premium. So far it's been launched for the Jira and Confluence. These are the features which have been included with this enterprise. That you will be able to manage the multi-site, which is really, really cool. When people who are managing multi-sites, they can just use that. User management from one place. This is a good thing, which I might recently use. I would have used that if launched earlier, but this is something cool for people who are planning to migrate. So there would be some assistance now we can get from Atlassian for migration. Same thing with the advanced auditing, that will be a feature for that, and it's gonna be coming soon. With this, as again, because I have gone through all those videos, I just try to cover as much as we can in the limitation time, but you always can go and get more information from the sessions which are available online. With that, for the breakout sessions, I'll just would like to hand over this to Dileep, and then if you have any questions, we can take it out probably at the end. Dileep, so I would say it's over to you.
All right, thanks, thanks, Kapil. So for the breakout sessions, want to kind of add the caveat here that it's really, kind of based on my preference here in terms of it's not exhaustive coverage. As we mentioned earlier, there's about 22 sessions on kind of various topics. And the focus that I had was basically on the software craft area, which has always been an interest, not from the particular tools or the product announcements per se. And again, this is just kind of a quick highlights. We kind of encourage you to kind of dig more. First, in terms of when you look at software crafts, so obviously, some quick overviews. First, obviously, is design thinking is making a big push now everywhere. So this is about design thinking in career and life. I think it's kind of interesting talk here by Alan Haig. Furthermore, there was like an epic disruption. So this is, I think, a big term that Accenture is using. We talked about the fourth industrial revolution. And you'll be fascinated to see the pink background that Jonathan had in his background. So I think it's, again, an interesting kind of a strategy level talk for, I would say, managers that folks who are interested in strategy. Then lastly, one fascinating talk I found was called How to Spot If You're Richard. Okay, and the idea is Richard is a euphemistic term for, if you're pain, whether yourself or a person within your organization is a pain. Right, you kind of identify as kind of four qualities, right? You're kind of screaming, you don't stand for nothing, and you're Debbie Downer, right? You're always negative, or you always think you're the smartest person. I think we should give a prize if anyone can tell, where all the pop culture references are in terms of he talks about the different four quality traits that if you're Richard. So kind of starting off on that, he talks of kind of presents this personality matrix, kind of broken down to four quadrants, and the idea is that if you're kind of thinking person, you're at the top. If you're a feeling person, you're at the bottom. Kind of introvert, you're on the left, and extrovert to the right. Again, the idea is that this is kind of a framework for you kind of evaluate yourself as to evaluate how you work with different modes and different people within your firm. And it kind of really ends the talk with kind of a nice way to think about the four things in terms of based on those four qualities of if you're a Richard, how to improve yourself. So it's not really about working with colleagues. I find it more kind of to retrospect on yourself and be able to kind of think about how people perceive you in the organization as well. Kind of changing from software craft, I want to talk about some of the tools and breakout sessions. There's kind of a nice talk from DevOps with Forge. I think some of you may have heard of Forge. It was released in beta in 2019, and I think really deals with obviously kind of all the 4,000 different marketplace add-ons and products that Atlassian has supported the ecosystem. So they created this whole new framework on that, and there's been a couple of talks based on that. There's one called Best in Breed DevOps, which I also found interesting because they mentioned talking about, this was a panel discussion with Atlassian, Datadog, I believe it's the Slack and Sumo Logic, and really talks about automation, metrics, and insights, and some of the contextual integration you may have in terms of DevOps suite. So as you know, it's going to have a very big theme that Atlassian had in terms of the presentations. And what I found fascinating about this particular talk was that these four companies have kind of different mindsets or different, priorities in terms of what they see as important. as well as what they see coming forward. So again, I think a lot of interesting tips and best practices, or I should say opinions, about what they see that's coming through. And lastly, I think I think one of kind of a really great talk. I think one of the best talks there was about incident management at Atlassian, and this is by Jim Severino. So again, I think this is kind of a fascinating topic, especially I think both from an IT and a software side. With obviously the speed of delivery always increasing as we go forward. I think incident management has always kind of taken a kind of big step forward, and I think he really defines. He talks about how to kind of set a baseline of how to define incidents. He kind of breaks into the fundamentals. And then from there, he kind of goes into kind of the processes of, how to establish, for your firm, again, based on how Atlassian has it for incident management. And it kind of rounds it up in terms of how kind of the best way to do postmortems. Again, a great talk with a lot of details, and I thought a lot of nice templates as well that you can take back, kind of practical advice on that. And what's kind of fascinating is he talks about kind of a real life Atlassian incident. I don't know if people are familiar with this. I didn't recollect this. Apparently there was a huge outage in 2017, which was due to kind of a quick update that they did due to a semicolon, right? And he kind of jokes that the person who did this was still with the firm, right? And they did not fire that person. So kind of a blame game here. I thought that was kind of interesting with that. All right. Obviously, there's a lot of other interesting sessions and topics here. So again, this is all focused on the breakout sessions. There's a really great one on certifications that I think if you're definitely interested in, I think, it's a slow start in terms of obviously why you need certification, but I think most of us are familiar with that. But I think Joanna really goes through kind of all these different badges and skill levels and kind of really the roadmaps. I think it's a great talk for anyone who's kind of interested in how to get started on that there. There's really another great talk by Chris from Trello who talks about distributed teams. And I think with this remote workplace, the situation we're in, this again is a fascinating talk. As you know, I think Trello was always a remote first workplace. And I remember Atlassian was talking about how when they had to when they bought Trello, how they have to integrate it in, where, Atlassian was always about, kind of the office space, et cetera. So I think he does a really, another great presentation on that. What's also interesting is Jira Align, as you know, is what was bought last year. Again, these obviously were very large firms. They're kind of integrating OKRs. I think a lot of folks are implementing at various firms. I know at my firm they did that, right? Objective key results, kind of way to basically on a quarterly basis assess how you're doing and define different ways kind of measuring your progress. So what's fascinating is how the Jira Align is now kind of implementing some of those OKRs kind of built into the particular tool set as well, which I thought fascinating. Another one from a tools perspective, this is a really fascinating talk about CI/CD is wrong. Again, talking about kind of the different things, so especially for people who are doing the DevOps and CI/CD, it's a really fascinating look at what they're doing wrong. And then lastly, I can't stop, as a couple said, everything's about the cloud, right? So I have to say, there's a lot of talks about, migrating to the cloud, myths, et cetera. So it's, again, there's a lot of focus on that. So it's, again, take a look at these sessions. Again, all this content, they just actually updated the YouTube playlist channel. This was actually not there, I think, initially right after the summit. And I was kind of surprised at that, but I just checked a few days ago. So they have all the summit talks on a playlist on the Atlassian YouTube channel. So you can find that information there. And then going forward, as you've probably seen from some of the emails, Atlassian is doing a lot of webinars now. So they have this remote work week, which started, I think John Patton had mentioned that he's attending those. He's found that really good. And probably they're also kind of repeating a lot of the webinars. I mean, I'll say the presentations that they did at Summit. Again, I think it's going to start next week, I believe, but I haven't attended any of these. But I think the idea is that I guess you can have, live Q&A. So just some quick notes about, again, live webinars Atlassian is hosting now as we move forward with that. All right. And then lastly, I think obviously some references here that we'll share after the deck here. And again, there's some recap notes and references. Again, I've just kind of found throughout the web recaps for folks who didn't attend any of the sessions, just to get a high level overview. As Kapil mentioned, there's a lot of information there, and it's really these kind of distill some of the information that we thought was useful to the ACE group here. Again, I'd also strongly encourage, if you watch any of the sessions on the chat, please feel free to share that, because I think it is definitely cool to see. But obviously, there's so much material, and I could attend everything. But if you did find something useful, please share it there. So with that, I think that's kind of a nice summary here. So thanks, folks. And I'm going to hand it back to Madhu here to see if you have any questions.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Dileep, and thanks, Kapil. That was really helpful. So you helped me save a couple of hours from that day. Yeah. I wish I could send you guys for every other conference that happens. All right, guys. Anyone have any questions to Dileep and Kapil? let's see how far did. Okay, tell me among all these sessions for you guys, which was the most favorite that you really liked and you went up? Dileep?
Oh, you're asking us?
Yeah, we are asking you guys. Like, yeah, what was the most favorite among all those?
Well,
I
the thing is, I would say that I'm anyways the cloud person. I use a lot of cloud and even did the migration. So everything was, it's great to me because those keynote sessions, that was like all about cloud. And I was excited to see all the new features, which is going to be implemented in cloud.
That's cool. I mean, I'm not sure how many of you here on our New York case, like generally as with my personal interaction with people in the past, a lot of the New York folks are all server hosted, like very few cloud hosted
That's true.
people. So I'm not sure, like if you can just maybe with a vote of hands, if you say, are you server or cloud, we will also get a glimpse. Like going forward, it could also help us to pivot our talks and topics around cloud or server based on our audience. So yeah, please share to chat that info. That would be great. And then let's shift to Dileep. Dileep, what was your favorite topic among all of those?
I think, as I mentioned, the ones kind of highlighted, I think the DevOps pipelines as a product manager, the incident management one, I think was very fascinating. And then, of course, how to identify the Richard, because I think it's something that you introspect and you did a really fun job with that. But again, I mean, I love these craft talks that they have. So I think the remote teams are the one that I mentioned at the end, I think is really another great one for folks to attend and see that. Again, I'll also note, folks, I attended all of these in 1.5 speeds, okay? So it's the best way to go through that, all right? Right, you can always stop it and rewind, right? If you want to hear something, the best way to go through that.
Yeah, that's a cool tip. All right, looks like no one has any other questions. So we'll get started and probably we'll shift to our second topic of the evening, which is from Boris. Just give me a second. Let me see if I can get him online, make him the co-host. All right. Yes, Boris, I'm making you the host so you can start sharing. So just to guys, for all of you, Boris is the one who runs and owns Atlas Authority. He's been one of our prime speakers from the past. Like he has done a couple of talks, and his talks are all like filled with knowledge and humor. So you're not going to get bored, that's for sure. So welcome on board, Boris, and please, the stage is yours.
Can you guys see the screen okay?
Yeah, we can. Thanks.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you everybody for being here. This talk is what I call signal versus noise, and the idea is around, kind of how can we get more effective at using Jira and Confluence through kind of improving the way that they communicate to us and we communicate back to them. So at a high level, I represent Atlas Authority. We're an Atlassian partner and a marketplace vendor. We do all of the typical partner stuff. I'm not here to talk to you about any of that. So I'm here to talk about notifications specifically. And the reason why we care about that is we make a plugin called Notification Assistant for Jira. It allows you to send emails, Slack messages, and other channels. And I think we're a little bit different than other people because we try and encourage our customers to send fewer notifications, not more. So kind of diving right in, I want to kind of talk about the concept of push notifications and what does that mean, over time. A lot of people think push notifications are a new thing. I think that somebody walking up to you and tapping you on the shoulder and interrupting your workday is kind of a form of a push notification. That evolved into calls, it evolved into emails, text, Slack. Now we have, very literal like pop-up notifications, both on mobile and on desktop. And this is just like a constant barrage for most people. I can't speak for others. I get, I want to say, like 50 new emails a day, plus text, plus Slack, etc. So it's definitely a lot of content coming to me. And so what I wanted to bring up was kind of this question of like, who here got one of these, previously? And typically when I do this presentation on purpose, I'll ask people to raise their hand. And everybody got something in their last workday. But then the real question is, of the ones you got, what percentage were actually useful, right? Like if you could have cut out 50% of those notifications and gotten the same thing done, wouldn't that have been a bit better? So why do we deal with this in the first place? Well, to get bleep done. And bleep is not profanity, it's work, right? Like we wouldn't be dealing with this stuff if we weren't essentially making money for the company and making money for ourselves. And like, it's really, really goal oriented. And so I look at this and I look at it from a much broader perspective than just software development or just Jira. And prior to all of the COVID stuff, I used to travel a ton, and because I traveled a ton, I flew a ton, and so I would look at these like interesting things like flight crew member duties, and CFRs, the Code of Federal Regulations. It's kind of the laws that govern all this. You don't need to read the whole thing. There's this one section that I think is interesting, and it says that no flight crew member may engage in activities such as non-essential conversations, non-essential communications between cabin and cockpit crews, reading publications not related to proper conduct of a flight, or that are required for the safe operation of the aircraft. And really what that says is, hey, when we're doing really important things like taking off and landing, when there's high risk, like we really need to be focused and we need to minimize the disruptions. And the reason why these disruptions matter is because it gets in the way of getting work done. So what does that actually look like for the average person in the United States? 45.9 notifications per day. Those are push notifications on mobile devices, but you still get an idea. There is the famous study that says that it takes 23 minutes to refocus after being interrupted. I dug into this, and there's a fair number of criticism of that study, but even the critics say that it's an absolute minimum of 5 minutes to refocus, but depending upon who you ask, there's, it's a range. And ultimately there is this idea of flow. And in a 10-year study conducted by McKinsey, top executives were reported as being 5 times more productive while in flow. So again, we get rid of those disruptions, we're able to do a better job. And just FYI, there are going to be sources for all of this at the end of the deck. So feel free to kind of just wait for that and you can get it from there. Email specifically. So we know that 83% of users are checking work emails after hours on their phone. I don't know if that's providing a lot of value necessarily, but it's definitely disrupting people's lives. We know that professionals are checking their emails 15 times per day or every 37 minutes. If you think about just that, right, and no other disruption, assuming you're in that 5 to 23 minute range of refocusing, then you're getting almost no real work done, right? So what's going on with this, right? Like how are people responding to this? Well, really easy, set up email filters, right? There's some organizations I go into, and the first thing I hear from them is like, oh man, Jira sends too many emails. Like, I just set up a Gmail filter, everything now just gets archived. And then users are frustrated that they performed an action and that their peers didn't get properly notified, or there's kind of like a loss of trust that's created, and that's difficult. There's also third-party tools that people use. So for example, there's Adios.ai, which acts as kind of a middleman to your email and just pauses it for like for several hours at a time, and you only get notifications 3 times a day. There's also Pause Gmail. It gives you a big button. You click it, you work through your emails, then you click unpause, and you get kind of whatever's been held back in that meantime. And why do people do this? Why are people kind of like they're checking all the time and they're frustrated by it? And kind of where's this all leading to? Well, it's this expectation of response. And when we actually look at studies, nobody's actually expecting you to respond immediately. Even if you respond within 4 hours, you're going to make like almost like 79%, 75% of people happy. So you can be really, really successful in responding to people, even by taking the time to allow yourself to kind of get work done and not get disrupted by interruptions. But that's email, and it's 2020 now, so we're all on some form of synchronous chat, whether it's Teams, Slack, Mattermost, or something else. And that's even more disruptive in my opinion. And there is this quote from a guy named Jason Fried. He's the co-founder of Basecamp, Highrise, backpack. They make a bunch of different apps. And the reason why I like this quote is that Jason's company makes a chat app, right? So this is a criticism of chat apps by a guy who makes money making chat apps. He says that group chat is like being in an all-day meeting with random participants and no agenda. And when synchronous chat applications are misused, that is absolutely the case. So guess what end users are doing? They're installing apps to kind of limit how these synchronous chat apps work. So for example, Our Time to Think is a way to synchronize Do Not Disturb for your entire team. You install it and you click it and you say like, okay, the entire team is on Do Not Disturb from 9 to 11 in the morning. It allows people to get started. And then at 11, kind of you can have your chat time and then so on. There's also Get Lowdown, which is basically a tool that listens to what's going on in Slack, condenses it and sends you a digest email so you don't feel like you have FOMO because you're not reading everything. And you know, I saw this being posted by a Slack integration company at one point, and they said, you know, hey, we have purged over 20 million Jira emails, and I was thought to myself, okay, but is it better to have 20 million Slack messages, or is it better to have 20 million emails? Me personally, I'd rather get 20 million emails, but you know, my point here is that there is a complexity to understanding kind of where we're going to get interactions and of what content and what are we going to do with it. So this kind of brings the big question, like, is email bad, right? Like, should we just turn off notifications, right? Are chat apps evil and disruptive? And really the answer is no, absolutely not, right? These are tools. They are here to help us get a job done. How we use them is our responsibility, and we want to improve how we utilize those tools. So kind of understanding disruption, I think, requires us to ask a number of questions. And those questions are kind of the pretty standard who, what, where, when, and why. And by thinking about notifications in that context, we are much better able to improve the quality of notifications that are being sent. So for who, right? Like, what is the audience of a given notification? Are you notifying the right people? You know, like if I have nothing to do with the HR team, why am I getting notified about issues going on with HR? The what is content, right? So can the recipient of the notification understand what's being presented, and is it being presented in a clear manner? You know, if you just send somebody a link and you don't say, you know, what is that link? Why is it there? It'll be really tough for them to understand. The where is the channel. So for example, if there's a critical outage in the middle of the night and you send an email, that's probably the wrong channel. If there is a very low priority feature request being filed in the middle of the day, sending somebody a text message on their personal cell phone number is probably not the right channel. So mapping the content to the channel is really important. Also timing, right? If we look at that example of a feature being filed, right? If that feature is filed in the middle of the night, is there a benefit to notifying the user that the recipient in the middle of the night that, hey, there's this feature that's been filed, feature request that's been filed? Or can you send them a summary in the morning, kind of saying like, hey, overnight, here's all the stuff that happened that you need to be looking at. And finally, why, right? What is the context of what's going on? So if you're getting a notification that says, hey, you know, there's an outage, but it doesn't tell you what went down, right? It's a lot tougher for you to decide, does this matter to me? Does it not? Like, am I the backup person for this? So trying to nail who, what, where, when, why, when sending a notification as you're designing notifications to your users is going to be really critical. And, you know, I bring up this idea. It's called BMAT. It's the BJ Fogg behavioral model. BJ Fogg is a researcher at the behavioral lab at Stanford. His students are the people who have created the red notification icon and other kind of ideas in behavioral modification that are widely used and affect our everyday lives. And what BMAT stands for is that behavior is equal to motivation plus ability plus trigger. And when we are working on notifications, we have to understand that, right? Like here, when we send a notification, we need to be very considerate of what is the motivation of the user, what is the ability of the user, what is the trigger, and what is the desired behavior we're trying to get out of it. So when we're thinking about all those things, we're like, hey, how can we actually improve this situation in a practical way in the tooling that we're responsible for, like Jira, like Confluence. And right now, the easiest two things that we recommend are just reduce the number of recipients for any given notification and reduce the number of notifications. Like at a high level, pretty easy. So let's dive a bit deeper into that. So reducing number of recipients. Matt Dorr, very, very well known in the Atlassian ecosystem. He taught me this a long time ago. Never put a role into a notification scheme. Project roles in Jira are controlled by project admins. If you put a role into a notification scheme, I guarantee you that at some point, a project admin is going to put like the Jira users group or something like that in that role, and you are going to send out like an issue created notification to absolutely every single user in your system. So very easy mistake to avoid. The other one is, notify individuals instead of groups, right? So for example, you want to have an escalation chain of notifications. So if there's an outage, right, you notify one person, and then a bit later you notify a second person, and then a bit later you notify a third person. That's not notify 3 people 3 times. And if you're doing Slack notifications, or when I say Slack, I mean really any synchronous chat here. But when you're doing Slack notifications, see if you can notify an individual, right? Like if something's being created and it's relevant to Boris, just notify Boris. Don't put it into the entire team channel because that disrupts everyone else there. So, given this idea of escalation, just a really simple example of what we do in our app is that you simply configure a very simple notification that says, hey, if this has not been updated in the last 5 days and it's in the IT service desk, make sure that you notify the manager of the service desk agent, and make sure that that the managers get notified of these issues every single day at 8 in the morning. And in this example, we are using Elements Connect, where we are dynamically pulling the manager from LDAP. So 5 minutes to set up, but you've now got automated escalation emails across your entire service desk. And then reducing the number of notifications, well, digests, right? Like how can we compress that information? Jira in newer versions has native support for digests. Everywhere I've seen, users are super happy about it. The interval on the digest in Jira is limited. So if your users want something broader than that, or if you need top-down control over what digests look like and what their schedules are and kind of what the body of that is, you can use an app like ours. The native integration from Slack doesn't support direct messages and they don't support digests. But there are third-party apps on the marketplace that you can look at that totally support that kind of thing. And we also do the same kind of thing, right? So for example, with basically a 2-line configuration, we're able to send a list of issues into Jira with kind of whatever content you want. In this example, it's just issue key and summary. But the idea is that you could have something in the morning like, hey, this is a list of tickets that are violating SLA, or this is a list of tickets that are in progress right now that everybody can see before the team goes into a stand-up. Just kind of like a high-level example. But beyond that, there's also Confluence, right? So there is the nuclear option, which we've seen some customers take, which is, hey, disable all notification emails. That is, I wouldn't recommend that, but we have seen some people do that. They rely on the notification workbox in Confluence to support them. There's also the No Email Storm app, which is extremely popular, and it's free from Stiltsoft. What that does is it changes the interface on the bottom of a page edit interface, so that rather than having a checkbox that is unchecked in order to kind of send or not send emails, they make it big buttons and allow you to specify which button sends emails and which one doesn't. very, very popular app, highly recommend it. And then if you want something a little bit more powerful where you're saying, hey, we want to send emails from Confluence, but not only do we need the Confluence content, we also really need to customize the presentation and kind of what those emails really look like. Then there's Mail Page from Secret Media. There are also other competing apps. This just happens to be the one that we use. But yeah, that's another tool to kind of really nail branding, which we do see have a significant impact on usage. And that's it. Thank you, everybody. And I'm just going to give you a quick glance that we do have links to studies, etc., here in the back, and that I believe the ACE leaders will be providing this deck on the event page after this is over. So thank you all very much, and let me know if you have any questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Boris. That was really very helpful. Something all of us, day in and day out, everyone that we use these applications have to struggle through these notifications, and it is definitely insightful for someone to tell us this is a problem you have. You know that it's like that. All right. Any questions out there, please? You can raise a hand, and I'll just unmute you, and you can probably step in and ask a question. Is the unmute working? Maybe Dileep or Kapil, can you just raise a hand just to see if that's working?
Yeah, I think as a co-host, I don't think I have the raise the hand option.
Okay.
But I do have a question though. I'm curious for Boris personally, what is your strategy with the chat tool that you use of how to manage that? Because I think you can't escape email, you can't escape chat. So I'm curious of what's your strategy of managing that?
For us, we do not push any notifications from anything that's not a production outage into our chat tool. That's kind of the rule that we set. If it's related to production outage, that goes into Slack, because our team uses Slack on their personal devices. So the expectation is, if it's going into Slack, it should be a critical disruption. Emails are much lower response expectation on our team. So that's kind of the approach that we've taken. We have customers that do the exact opposite. So we're working now with one customer where their engineering team wants to disable all email notifications entirely in their projects, and want only notifications in Slack at this one company. And on top of that, they not only want to be notified in Slack, but they also want to have Slack be their primary form of content creation in Jira. So their idea is, hey, if I need to file a ticket, I can do it from Slack. I'm on Slack anyways to interact with my team. This means I don't have to go into the Jira UI. I, as a coder, can write code. I can run tests. I can be in my IDE, my CLI, whatever, and I can have Slack, which I'll have open anyways. And that's kind of a limited. That's one engineering team, kind of preference. I am very careful to avoid saying that there is a best practice here, because I don't think anybody really knows what's best yet. I think people are still figuring it out. I think that it's very different by different company use cases. For example, we have a company that is HIPAA compliant, and for them, they have to be really careful where they push notifications through, because, for example, if they send emails, then everybody in the email chain needs to be HIPAA compliant, right? If they send a Slack notification, then they have to make sure that everything in the chain, again, is HIPAA compliant. So it really kind of depends on what your organization's specific needs are. And, I would say start with your needs and then solve for those. Don't pick a North Star of best practice and then try and shove that into fitting something that may not work for you.
Any other questions? Anyone else? On the same note, Boris, I have one question from my side. Like, is there any kind of AI solution on this? Like, based on a certain pattern, I can say, hey, any of these kind of emails that if I get like issue created, if I'm getting constantly these kind of emails, if I can set up a pattern, is there any similar kind of solutions out there?
So, you know, when I agreed to do this talk, I said I would keep the sales to a minimum.
Okay.
So I will say this: in doing customer interviews, we reach the same kind of question and it becomes kind of a cyclical question, right? If we allow an end user to opt out of notifications, then the person performing the action or the person configuring the notification can no longer trust that notification in its consistency. And Atlassian, for example, released this functionality in, I believe, Jira Cloud recently. And if you look at the community page where the community post, there's a discussion going back and forth between some users who are saying, wow, this is awesome, I really love it. And then you have messages from other people saying, I'm concerned because now when I perform an action, I have no confidence in the notification action. So what we're envisioning right now for our app is we plan to build out an audit log feature. And one of the functionalities that we're considering building into it is not an unsubscribe, but like a dislike almost. So that you as an admin or you as a project admin who's configuring a notification will see that, you know, over X period of time, I've had this number of people tell me that this notification is harmful to me, and thereby empower both users to communicate their pain back to the people creating the notifications, as well as empowering the people creating the notifications to have data to understand, you know, hey, like out of 10,000 notifications we've sent, you know, we've annoyed one person versus we've sent 20 and we've gotten 10 complaints about it already, you know? So provide, you know, we think that maybe creating a feedback loop rather than just a disconnect functionality may be the solution here, but I don't think that there is a right answer for this today. And I think no matter which avenue you take, you're gonna make somebody unhappy. And I mean, specifically with email, there's also the legal side of it, right? Of like, hey, like, do emails sent by Jira have to have an unsubscribe that works, right? Like that you get into these weird compliance questions of, you know, how does this all work? So we're definitely thinking about that, and Atlassian is obviously as well because they're releasing similar features. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how it evolves. I don't think anyone has a perfect answer for this yet.
Cool. Thanks, man. Alrighty. Looks like there is no other questions. So thanks, Boris. Really appreciate taking time and speaking to us. Thank you. All right, guys. Let me shift or share my screen on the last segment. What we have, that's something that what we all look forward for. What's that? Yeah. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yep.
Alrighty. So once again, I need to give a shout out to Atlassian for helping us conduct this virtual event, without whom this wouldn't have been possible. And as just to mention you out, they are giving us out a $50 swag coupon. So I'm going to draw out names. For the lucky winner would get $50 swag coupon. And then we have AdTech. Every year they used to do sushi for all our events. That's a record so far. So I asked them, like, what do we do this time? Like, how about a sushi, what do you call it, a gift card for all our members? But I felt it's too much during these economic challenges time. So they were still nice enough to give us 1 year free license for one of their plugin, Excellent Table, and also one swag box for the winner. So again, one of the winner would get that. And then we have Column Technologies. So they offered us to get Uber gift card. It's like helping your local business also, which is also a very nice offer. And again, we appreciate all of these gift prizes from all of these expert partners, which is such a generous act, what we feel. So thanks, Column. And then we have CPRAN, and you would not believe. So their virtual training, when I saw this afternoon when they sent it, I was like, wow, $1,000. Can I put my name on it? That was what it was. So thanks to C Prime as well. So all the sponsors for this evening. So we totally appreciate this and we value this. So just to list out, we are going to call out the names. The first winner would be for the Uber gift card for $25. The second winner would be for the $50 swag coupon, and they can choose one of these, the plugin on the swag box. The reason why we have this combination is like not everyone could be using the plugin or the licenses. So that's where we just made it optional along with that as a bonus. And the grand winner would get the C Prime virtual training, which is worth $1,000. And I guess if I'm not wrong, so these are the different subjects catalog, the learning catalog, what we have from C Prime that they offer the virtual training on. So you can pick one of them. And I guess as far as I recall, end of October is when this is going to expire. So you can make use of that. So that's with the prizes that I'll call out the names shortly. Before that, I just want to mention to all of you, so all of those people who were for the first timers, please make sure as well that you log into our online community where we are still there to interact, ask questions, share stuff, or share a success story or things like that. So please join us there. And then upcoming events. So a couple of them. So I think Dileep mentioned earlier, so that some of remote webinars, which Atlassian is already managing that, which is they're running it daily. So please follow up on those links. So there are a couple of them, the remote work series, which is also there. And then we have the next virtual event, month of May. We haven't decided the dates yet. I know that the lockdown is slowly opening up, but we are not sure that we would still be able to find an event space and even have an event anytime soon. So until we have more clarity or have a space, we will continue to do a virtual style. Already, without wasting too much of time, because I know a lot of people would like to start checking out. So for the first prize of the Uber gift card, $25. So I'm just going to pull out the names from my Chrome browsers. Okay, so these are the entries. So these are the people name. If you see your name not here, please give me a shout.
And you're not partner. The condition applied.
Yeah, should not be a partner or Atlassian employee. All right, fine. I guess everyone here is listed here. So we're going to choose. And here goes our names. All right, every time we used to get people to click, so it would be I'm the lucky one. So I'll do this, I guess. Not this. Okay, I think. Alrighty, so this is for the $25 Uber gift card. Let's see who's the winner. Is damn it. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you guys hear the background sound or not.
No,
Yeah.
we didn't hear.
Is it? Okay. For me, I get like people clapping and all screaming.
That's
All
fine.
right,
We saw the confetti, so it's fine.
All right, Damir, if you could just ping me or Dileep or Kapil with your email ID, that would be great, so that we'll pass it on to Column Technologies and they will reach out to you. All right, so we'll remove him from the list so that we give a chance for other people. The other prize, what we have, next one is for the $50 swag coupon and one of these, the executable plugin and the swag box. So you get to pick that, so we'll interact with you. So it's for the second winner is what the name is going to be pulled for now. Already, here we go. Will. Congrats, Will.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you could just please Slack me or Dileep or Kapil with your email ID, please, we'll take care of that for you. So Will is our second lucky winner for tonight. I'll remove him from the list. And for the last $1,000 virtual training gift card winner would be, sorry, did someone say something?
No, nothing. Go ahead.
Okay. Already, here goes the last winner, the grand winner for the training. And the winner is none other than Samantha. Congratulations, Samantha. Already, guys.
Yay!
Thanks for that. We really need it during these times, so we totally appreciate that. Thanks, guys. Thanks for all the lucky winners. Congratulations. Again, for the next upcoming events, like we are here still for the next 15 minutes at least. So hang around and talk, like if that would be great. So yeah, we are still looking forward for topics, the things that you guys are interested to hear. So if you could give that in your feedback, that would be really helpful. Again, we are new to the virtual training, the holding the events. So please bear with us, and any apologies if we messed up in terms of coordinating and running this. So we're slowly learning. I'm sure down the time we'll improvise on this. Thanks, thanks everyone. Do anyone have anything to say?
Great job, everyone.
Hey, Selena, finally. Thank you.
Y'all did great. No, I know it's a lot of pressure, but for y'all to continue to bring your community together, and you know, there are always going to be technological discrepancies, but y'all crushed it. So thank you for doing what you do.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Selena. She's the driving force. So yeah.
No, you all are the driving force. I'm just here to support.
Cool. Thanks. So next time you just have to make sure when we have a real event in a place, like what we used to have once upon a time, please make sure as well to drop into those events as well.
Yes.
All right. Anyone else have anything else to share, say? No? Dileep, Kapil?
No, nothing from our side. This was even the first time for us as well as a NYC community event, so it was really great.
Yeah.
Thanks for everyone to spend their time.
Stay safe, everybody.
Yeah, everyone, please stay safe. Don't go out unless for the essentials. I know it's tough days. Yeah. Hopefully soon things will improve.
Yeah.
Alrighty then. If no one has anything to say or share, so let's sign off for tonight, and then again we'll chat up next month. All right. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Night. Yeah. Stay safe. Bye.